The grand hall was silent, but for the harsh echo of the alien king's voice. His words cut through the cold air like a blade. "You have failed me," he said, his tone devoid of warmth. "You are no longer my queen." The queen stood frozen, the weight of his condemnation pressing down on her like a suffocating shroud. Her eyes, once filled with hope and pride, now shimmered with unshed tears. For years, she had borne the weight of expectations, borne the public smile, the whispered, court gossip, the ceaseless pressure to produce an heir. Yet the stars had not granted her this one blessing. The alien laws were merciless. A queen who could not bear a child was worthless. The king's cold gaze swept across the gathered courtiers, who murmured amongst themselves, eyes flickering between the discarded queen and their ruler. Effective. Immediately the king declared, "You are stripped of all titles and privileges. You will leave the palace and never return." A wave of gasps rippled through the room. Some courtiers shifted uneasily, while others wore expressions of cruel satisfaction. The queen's personal guard lowered their weapons, signaling their abandonment. Her heart shattered, but no sound escaped her lips. Instead, she bowed deeply, the last act of submission before exile. Outside, the air was sharp and biting. The palace loomed behind her, a monument to everything she had lost. The wind tugged at her flowing robes as she trudged down the cold marble steps, each footfall a final severing of ties. A shuttle awaited her at the landing pad, its engines humming softly. She stepped inside without a glance back, her mind a storm of anguish and disbelief. The shuttle soared away from the palace, leaving the sprawling capital city behind. The queen stared out the window, the stars blurring past like distant dreams slipping away. She was to be exiled to the barren moon of Veshara, a desolate rock with harsh winds and freezing nights. Few survived there without purpose, fewer thrived, alone. In her small Spartan quarters, the queen wrapped herself in a threadbare blanket. The cold seeped into her bones, but it was nothing compared to the emptiness gnawing at her soul. For days, she wandered the bleak landscapes, her thoughts a tangle of regret and bitterness. She had been cast aside for something she could not control, a fate sealed by ancient laws and cruel traditions. Then, one night, a strange sound shattered the eerie silence. A distant, thunderous crash echoed through the mountains. The queen's heart raced. In the valley below, a glowing fire burned brightly against the darkness. Cautiously, she descended, driven by curiosity and a flicker of hope. There, among the twisted metal and shattered glass, lay a human, a man unlike any she had seen before. His skin was pale and marked by dirt and bruises. His eyes, however, shone with a fierce intelligence and defiant spirit. He was injured but alive. Their eyes met, a mixture of fear and wonder passing between them. The queen extended a trembling hand. "Are you alive?" she whispered. The human managed a weak nod. "Yeah, I crashed. I didn't mean to come here." Despite herself, the queen felt a strange surge of protectiveness. Here was someone as lost as she was, stranded on a hostile world. Days turned into weeks as the two formed an unlikely alliance. The queen taught the human how to survive the moon's harsh conditions. In return, he shared tales of his own world, Earth, full of wonders and struggles foreign to her. They spoke of hope and despair, of power and freedom. Slowly, trust blossomed into friendship, and friendship into something deeper, something neither dared to name. But their fragile peace was shattered one evening as distant figures appeared on the horizon, soldiers from the alien kingdom, their armor glinting menacingly. In the fading light, the queen's heart pounded. She had a choice: surrender the human to save herself or fight for this unexpected bond. The soldiers closed in, weapons drawn. The Queen stood resolute beside the human, ready to face whatever came next. And in that moment, a spark of defiance ignited, a promise that her story was far from over. Cliffhanger. The Queen spots soldiers from the alien kingdom closing in on them. Will she protect the human or surrender? The sun was setting beyond the jagged horizon of Veshara, casting long shadows over the barren landscape. The Queen's pulse thudded heavily in her ears as the alien soldiers advanced, their armor clinking softly with every step. Her gaze flickered toward the human beside her, wounded but resolute. He looked back, pain etched across his face, yet there was something fierce in his eyes. They were both fugitives now, bound by circumstance and necessity. "Run!" she hissed, grabbing his arm. "No!" he replied, shaking his head. "I'm not leaving you." She wanted to protest, to tell him to flee before they were captured or killed. But there was no time. The soldiers had seen them. "Stop!" the lead soldier commanded, raising his energy weapon. The Queen took a slow, steady breath. She could surrender, accept her fate as a disgraced exile, and leave the human to perish. But that was not who she was anymore. With a surge of determination, she pushed the human behind a large boulder. "Stay low. Trust me." The soldiers opened fire, beams of glowing energy slicing the air. The Queen dodged instinctively, rolling behind cover and firing back with a stolen pulse pistol she had managed to salvage from the palace armory before her exile. The human scrambled to his feet, clutching a small blaster the Queen had given him. Though inexperienced, he managed a wild shot that grazed one soldier's shoulder. The soldiers regrouped quickly, their training evident in their disciplined advance. "We need to disappear," the Queen whispered urgently. "Follow me." They darted through the rocky terrain, the sound of pursuit relentless behind them. Hours later, after losing their pursuers in a dense field of alien flora, they found shelter in a small cave hidden beneath twisted vines. The Queen collapsed against the cold stone wall, exhaustion and adrenaline crashing over her. The human tended to her wounds, his hands surprisingly gentle, despite his rough appearance. "Why did you help me back there?" she asked softly. "You could have run," he shrugged, eyes dark with a complex mixture of emotions. "Maybe I'm not the kind of person who runs." She studied him, the way his jaw clenched, the determination burning in his gaze. Here was a man who had survived crash landing on a hostile alien world, faced death alone, and still held on to his humanity. A fragile trust began to take root between them. Over the next few days, they built a routine. The Queen taught the human how to find food among the strange plants, how to navigate the shifting winds that could strip flesh from bone in seconds. In turn, the human shared stories of Earth, its sprawling cities, its oceans, and the endless sky. He spoke of human resilience, of people who had endured wars, natural disasters, and yet kept pushing forward. The Queen listened, fascinated by the human world she had never known. His stories stirred something within her, a flicker of hope. In the darkness, one evening as they sat by a small fire, the human asked the question that had been weighing on both of them. "Why did the king cast you out? I mean, why couldn't you have a child?" Her eyes filled with pain. "In our culture, bearing an heir is everything. The king's bloodline must continue, or the dynasty falls. I was the queen, but I could not give him what he wanted." She hesitated, then added quietly, "He said I was worthless." The human's expression hardened. "That's cruel. No one should be judged by something they can't control." She nodded slowly. "But that is the way of things. Tradition is stronger than compassion." They sat in silence, the weight of their shared loneliness connecting them. As days passed, news reached the Queen, whispers carried on the wind, that the alien kingdom was searching for her. The king had not forgotten his discarded queen, and the soldiers' search intensified. One night, under a sky heavy with stars, they heard the distant rumble of engines. Scouts. The Queen's heart hammered. They are close. The human gripped her hand. We'll face them together. Meanwhile, back at the alien capital, the king paced in his throne room, a mixture of anger and doubt gnawing at him. His advisors urged him to send more forces to bring the queen back by force or death. But the king hesitated. There was a secret he kept even from his closest counselors, a secret that made the queen's rejection more than just about her inability to bear children. It was a secret tied to the very foundation of their royal bloodline. Back on Vishara, the queen and the human prepared for the inevitable. The queen began training the human in combat, teaching him how to wield the alien weapons and move silently through the terrain. The human's raw determination impressed her, and she began to see him not just as an ally, but as something more. A companion in a world that had turned its back on them both. One evening, as they rested beneath a sky painted with twin moons, the queen shared a story, an ancient prophecy that had been passed down through generations. It speaks of a union, she said, voice trembling, between the blood of our people and one from another world. This union will bring balance and change, overthrowing the corrupt traditions that bind us. The human's eyes widened. You think that could be us? She smiled faintly. Perhaps. Or perhaps it is a hope we must carry forward no matter what. The next morning the peace shattered. An assassin, cloaked in shadows and silent as death, slipped through the alien wilderness toward their hiding place. The queen sensed danger before the human did. Hide, she whispered urgently. They barely escaped as the assassin's blade sliced through the rock where they had been moments before. Chased and hunted, the queen and the human were forced to rely on each other more than ever. They uncovered truths about the alien kingdom, secrets of power, betrayal, and lies that shook the queen's understanding of her own people. And through it all, their bond deepened, a fusion of human resilience and alien wisdom, a testament to the power of trust and love across worlds. Cliffhanger, the assassin corners them in a narrow canyon. There is no way out. Will they survive? Will their unlikely alliance be shattered forever? The narrow canyon loomed around them, like a death trap. Towering walls of jagged rock rose sharply on both sides, leaving barely enough room to move. The assassin was closing in, footsteps muffled but deliberate. The queen and the human stood back to back, weapons drawn, muscles tensed. The assassin's presence was almost ghost-like, an expert predator who moved with silent precision. One wrong move, and the queen knew they'd both be dead. Her pulse thundered in her ears as she whispered to the human, "We have to keep moving. There's no room to fight here." The human nodded, gripping his pulse pistol tightly. His fingers trembled slightly, but his eyes burned with determination. Suddenly, the assassin sprang forward, blade gleaming under the faint light filtering into the canyon. The queen reacted instantly, raising her weapon and firing a sharp pulse. The beam grazed the assassin's arm, drawing a hiss of pain. But the attacker was relentless. With a deft twist, the assassin lunged again, aiming for the queen's throat. Time slowed. The human leapt forward, pushing her aside just in time. The assassin's blade struck air, slicing through a spray of dust and rock. They stumbled apart, and the assassin vanished into the shadows. Breathless, the queen steadied herself. "We can't stay here." They hurried deeper into the canyon, every step echoing like a drumbeat in the confined space. What was that back there? The human asked, eyes scanning every shadow. "A professional assassin," the queen said grimly, "sent by the king, someone who wants me dead without hesitation." "Why? What threat could you possibly be?" She hesitated, the weight of her secret pressing against her chest. "There's more to my exile than the king's anger, things he has kept hidden even from his closest advisors." They paused in a small alcove where a trickle of water flowed from the rock. "Tell me," the human urged. The queen took a deep breath. "The royal bloodline," she began, "is not just about ruling a kingdom. It is tied to a powerful genetic legacy, a legacy that grants strength, longevity, and abilities beyond normal beings." Her eyes flickered with painful memories. The king's true concern was that I could not produce an heir. But the deeper fear was that our line would weaken if the blood was diluted. She looked at the human, her gaze steady but haunted. "And then I met you." The human's heart skipped. "You're the first outsider to survive among us. And in that survival lies a key, something even the king fears." The human stared at her, realizing the magnitude of what she revealed. "So, this isn't just about a child. It's about power?" "Yes, and change." The queen's expression softened. "You have shown me what it means to fight for survival, for freedom, for love, not just for bloodlines or tradition." She stepped closer. "Will you stand with me?" Suddenly, the quiet was shattered by a violent explosion at the canyon's entrance. Dust and rock rained down as soldiers stormed into the narrow passage, weapons drawn and shouting orders. The queen's eyes narrowed. "They found us." The human grabbed her hand. "We have to escape." She nodded, pulling him along through a hidden crevice she knew from years of secret passages. They slipped through the narrow opening just as the soldiers flooded the canyon. The queen's knowledge of the terrain was their only chance. After hours of scrambling over rocks and weaving through alien flora, they found a secluded valley, a forgotten place filled with strange, glowing plants and soft moss. As they rested, the human finally spoke. "You've been through so much. Rejected, hunted, betrayed." She nodded silently, eyes lost in the alien stars above. "But meeting you, it changed everything." The human smiled softly. "I'm no hero, just a man who's lost everything and found a reason to fight." Days passed, and their bond grew stronger. The queen trained the human in the ancient arts of her people, combat techniques, stealth maneuvers, and the use of bio-enhanced technology that blended biology with machinery. He learned quickly, his human determination defying the odds. One night, the queen revealed a hidden chamber beneath the valley. Inside, ancient alien relics pulsed with faint light. Among them was a strange device, a genetic archive that held the secrets of the royal bloodline. "This," she explained, "is the key to understanding who I am and who I might become." The human reached out, tracing the glowing symbols. "What if this could change everything, not just for you, but for your people?" She looked at him with hope. "But it could also make us targets for the king's wrath." Their conversation was cut short by a sudden tremor shaking the ground. A low, guttural roar echoed through the valley. The queen's eyes widened. "Something ancient, something dangerous, has been awakened. From the shadows, enormous alien creatures, guardians of the valley, emerged, their eyes glowing with otherworldly intelligence. The human instinctively raised his weapon. "Stay behind me." The creatures advanced slowly, but not aggressively. The queen stepped forward, raising her hands in a gesture of peace. "They are protectors of the royal legacy," she said quietly. "They sense the bloodline within me." One creature lowered, its massive head a sign of acceptance. The queen turned to the human. "This is our chance to reclaim what was lost, to challenge the king." But as hope blossomed, a chilling voice echoed through the valley. "You will not defy me." From the darkness stepped the king's chief enforcer, a towering figure clad in black armor, eyes cold as ice. "You will return to the capital, or die trying." The queen drew her weapon, the human by her side. The final battle was about to begin. Cliffhanger, surrounded by ancient guardians and the king's deadly enforcer, the queen and the human prepare for a fight that will decide the fate of the alien kingdom and their future together. The valley held its breath as the dark figure advanced, the king's chief enforcer, an imposing silhouette against the alien flora's eerie glow. His black armor shimmered with lethal intent, each step resonating like the beating of war drums. The queen's grip tightened around her weapon. Beside her, the human's pulse pistol felt like an extension of his own will, trembling with the weight of the impossible choice ahead. "This ends now," the enforcer growled, voice cold and unforgiving. "Return to the capital and surrender or perish like a traitor." The queen's eyes burned with defiance. "I will never bow to a king who abandoned his own blood for fear and ignorance." The human stepped forward, voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through his veins. "You threaten not just her, but the future of your people. There's more at stake than you realize." A tense silence stretched between them. Suddenly, with a guttural roar, the enforcer lunged forward, his blade a streak of deadly precision. The queen reacted instantly, parrying the strike with her energy shield, sparks flying from the impact. The human fired his pulse pistol, the beam grazing the enforcer's armor, leaving a sizzling mark. The battle had begun. Around them, the ancient guardians stirred, eyes glowing brighter. They encircled the combatants, an imposing wall of muscle and alien power, waiting for their queen's command. The queen's strategy was clear: buy time, protect the human, and find a way to unlock the secrets buried deep within the genetic archive she carried. As the enforcer pressed his attack, relentless and brutal, the queen danced between offense and defense, each move calculated, honed by years of survival in exile. The human dodged a sweeping strike, heart pounding. He wasn't trained like the queen, but his instincts and resolve kept him alive. He saw an opening, a weak joint in the enforcer's armor, and fired a concentrated blast. The enforcer staggered, rage flashing in his eyes. With a growl, he recovered, summoning dark energy that crackled around his blade. The queen's eyes widened. This was no ordinary warrior. In the chaos, the human caught a glimpse of the genetic archive glowing faintly beneath the queen's cloak. An idea sparked. He yelled, "Give me the archive!" Without hesitation, the queen tossed it to him. The human fumbled but caught it, quickly activating the device. Streams of light erupted, projecting holographic images, ancient DNA sequences, genetic codes, and ancestral memories. The enforcer's attention snapped to the device. "What are you doing?" the queen demanded. The human's fingers danced over the controls, searching for an advantage. "Unlocking the truth," he said. Suddenly, the archive revealed a hidden message, a recording from the queen's ancestors, warning of a cataclysm. If the royal bloodline became corrupted, more importantly, it showed a potential path to restore balance by combining alien and human DNA, creating a new hybrid line stronger than either alone. The enforcer snarled, realizing the threat this knowledge posed. With a roar, he unleashed a blast of dark energy toward the human. The queen threw herself forward, shielding him as the blast struck, sending her crashing against a rock face. Pain flared through her, but her spirit remained unbroken. The guardians howled in anger, surging forward to protect their queen. The battle shifted. The enforcer found himself overwhelmed by the combined might of the guardians and the queen's fierce leadership. In a desperate move, he lunged for the genetic archive. The human intercepted, wielding it like a weapon, his courage rising beyond his limits. The enforcer and human clashed, the archive glowing between them. Suddenly, a burst of energy erupted, engulfing them both. When the light faded, the enforcer lay unconscious, his armor cracked and broken. The queen approached cautiously, heart racing. "We have won, for now," she said softly. The human looked exhausted but alive, clutching the archive tightly. As dawn broke over the valley, the queen knew the battle was just the beginning. The king's grip on the throne was fragile, and her fight to reclaim her place and the future of her people was far from over. But with the human by her side and the secrets of the genetic archive in their hands, Hope burned brighter than ever. Cliffhanger. The Queen receives a cryptic message from an unexpected ally inside the capital, one who knows the king's darkest secrets. But can she trust them? And what new dangers await in the shadows of power? The dim light of the alien capital's hidden chamber flickered like the heartbeat of a secret too heavy to bear. The Queen sat across from her unexpected ally, a figure cloaked in shadows, their identity concealed by a mask woven from the shimmering strands of ancient technology. "Why should I trust you?" she demanded, voice low but sharp. The figure leaned forward, voice barely a whisper, yet carrying the weight of forbidden knowledge. "Because I want the same thing as you, to see the king fall." Her eyes narrowed. "Why? What do you know about him?" A faint sigh escaped beneath the mask. "More than you can imagine. The king's power isn't just political. It's tied to a dark secret buried deep in our bloodline." The Queen's heart pounded. Was this another trap? Or the key to unraveling the mystery that haunted her family for generations? The room was thick with tension, silence stretching like a fragile thread. Finally, the masked figure revealed a small device, a data shard pulsing with encrypted files. "This contains everything. The king's true origins, his manipulations, the reasons behind your exile." The Queen hesitated, then accepted the shard, feeling the weight of destiny in her palm. "Tell me," she urged. The masked figure began their tale, voices blending with the hum of the chamber. "The king was not always the ruler, you know. Long ago he was an outcast, born of forbidden experiments combining alien and human DNA. His thirst for power drove him to betray his own bloodline." Shock and disbelief surged through the Queen. Could this be true? Had the very throne been built on lies and betrayal? "His childlessness isn't a curse," the figure continued. "It's a calculated facade to maintain control. He fears the rise of a true heir, someone who can unite both worlds and challenge his reign." The Queen's eyes glistened with renewed determination. "Then that heir is me, and the human I stand with." Outside, the capital buzzed with unrest. The people whispered of change, sensing the shifting tides but unaware of the storm gathering beneath the surface. The Queen and her ally plotted their next move. "First, we expose the king's lies," the figure said. "But to do that, we need proof, undeniable evidence that will sway the council and the people." The Queen nodded. "And the human? He will be crucial," the figure said. "His bloodline is the missing link." Back in the valley, the human trained under the Queen's guidance, mastering alien technology and combat. Each day forged a bond deeper than words, a shared purpose that transcended worlds. Yet beneath the surface, doubts gnawed at him. Was he truly part of this destiny? Could a simple human survive in the brutal politics of an alien court? One evening, as the twin moons cast silver light over the camp, the human spoke. "I'm not sure I belong here. Sometimes I feel like a pawn in a game too vast to understand." The Queen smiled softly. "You belong more than you know. You are the future. Not just for me, but for all of us." Meanwhile, the king grew restless. Reports of rebellion, secret alliances, and whispers of truth threatened to unravel his carefully crafted empire. He summoned his most trusted advisor, a shadowy figure with eyes like burning coals. "Find them," the king commanded. "Destroy their hope before it ignites." The advisor bowed, a sinister smile curling their lips. The Queen will learn that betrayal runs deeper than she imagines. Back in the capital's heart, the Queen and her ally infiltrated the council chambers during a critical assembly. Hidden, cameras and stolen codes allowed them to broadcast the king's secrets live, the truth of his origins, his manipulations, and his fear of the hybrid heir. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Council members exchanged shocked glances. Some whispered of revolt, others of disbelief, but the seed of doubt had been planted. Suddenly, alarms blared. The king's guards stormed the chamber, led by the ruthless enforcer recovered from the valley battle. The queen stood her ground, facing the onslaught with unwavering resolve. The human fought beside her, pulse pistol blazing, every shot a declaration of defiance. The battle was fierce, chaos erupting within the sacred halls. In the midst of the fight, the queen spotted a familiar face, the advisor with burning coal eyes. Their gaze locked, a silent warning passing between them. The advisor vanished into the shadows, plotting their next move. The queen knew the fight was far from over. As the dust settled, the council was divided. Some pledged loyalty to the queen and the vision of unity. Others clung to the king's fading power. The queen's message was clear. A new dawn was possible, but only if they embraced change, the fusion of alien strength and human resilience. Her voice echoed through the chamber. Together, we can build a future where no one is cast aside for who they are. Cliffhanger. The king prepares a deadly counterstrike, unleashing a secret weapon that could annihilate the queen's forces. But deeper betrayal lurks within the queen's closest circle, a traitor whose allegiance might doom everything. Moonlight filtered coldly through the shattered windows of the council chamber, casting long shadows on the fallen and the survivors alike. The queen stood tall amid the chaos, her eyes burning with fierce determination. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Behind her, the human warrior stood firm, bloodied but unbroken, the pulse pistol still warm in his hand. Together, they embodied the fragile hope for a new future, a fusion of two worlds bound by destiny. The king's secret weapon had been unleashed, a devastating energy wave designed to erase the rebellion in a single strike. But thanks to intelligence from the Queen's closest allies, the Council had prepared a defense, absorbing the blast and buying precious time. Now, the king himself appeared in the chamber, his presence a storm of rage and desperation. His eyes, once regal, were clouded with madness and fear. "You think you can overthrow me?" he snarled, voice echoing like thunder. "I am the throne, I am the bloodline. Without me, this empire will crumble into dust." The queen stepped forward, voice steady but resolute. "You are not the throne. The throne belongs to the people, to unity, not fear." Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, the traitor revealed. It was the queen's most trusted advisor, the one who had whispered secrets in the king's ear, feeding his paranoia. "I never believed in your cause," the advisor hissed, drawing a concealed blade. "The king offers power, but you offer weakness." In a flash, the queen's guards intercepted, but the betrayal stung like a poison in her heart. The human warrior lunged forward, disarming the traitor with swift precision. "Loyalty is not bought with power," the queen said quietly. "It's earned through trust." With the traitor captured, the queen turned back to the king. "This ends now," she declared. A tense silence filled the chamber. The king's rage simmered, then broke like a wave. "I will not be forgotten," he growled. "My legacy will burn in your bones." He lunged at the queen, but the human intercepted, their fight a blur of strength and desperation. As the battle raged, the queen activated the data shard she had received long ago, the one containing the king's darkest secrets. She projected the files holographically into the chamber. The council and citizens watched in stunned silence as the truth unfolded. The king's origin as a product of forbidden experiments mixing human and alien DNA, his manipulation of the royal line to maintain power. The truth about the queen's childlessness: it was never a curse, but a sabotage by the king's agents to weaken her, the hidden prophecy of a hybrid heir destined to unite worlds. The revelation shattered the king's facade. His power crumbled like a house of cards, but in his final act of defiance, he triggered a self-destruct mechanism beneath. The palace, a fail-safe meant to destroy everything. The Queen's voice rang out. "Evacuate, now!" The human and the Queen raced through corridors, collapsing around them, allies helping civilians escape through hidden passages. Every second was a battle against death. As they reached the exit, the Queen looked back one last time. This empire was built on fear, but it will rise on hope. Outside, the people gathered, humans and aliens united in shock and relief. The Queen addressed them, voice carrying over the crowd. "We have faced darkness, betrayal, and loss. But from these ashes, we will build a future where no one is cast aside for who they are, where strength lies in unity and hope shines brighter than fear." Cheers erupted. Months later, peace reigned. The Queen, now accepted as the true heir, bore a child, a symbol of unity, hope, and a new beginning. The human warrior stood by her side, no longer an outsider, but a guardian of two worlds. Together, they led an era of exploration, discovery, and understanding, bridging the gap between alien and human, past and future. Final lesson. True strength is not born from lineage or power alone, but from the courage to embrace differences, build trust, and unite for a greater purpose. The legacy we leave is not in conquest or domination, but in the bonds we forge across divides, human and alien, known and unknown. In a universe vast and mysterious, it is our shared humanity that lights the path forward. The end.